Check out this old beauty. I picked this up at one of the local ham fests. This was a guy that was parked next to me. I was selling stuff at that ham fest, and he bought a radio from me, and I gave him a great deal on the radio. Well, about 5 minutes later, he walked over to me and with this thing in his hand and said, "Do you want it?" And he put it in the back of my car. So this was a free to me. This is what I call karma. I was good to him. I gave him a good price on the radio, and he gave me this one. He did tell me it has issues. He said there's no modulation coming out of it. He said it transmits but does not put out any audio. So we're going to mess with it and see what we find with this thing. I have the clock set. I don't know if it works yet. I haven't tried it, but I have it set to come on at 11:13. So we're going to see if the auto timer works on it. This is the mic that came with it. Isn't that just an adorable little thing? I mean, it's small. That's you put it next to the radio. Look how tiny that thing is. I have a feeling it's going to be the element inside of that microphone. So we're going to try it first. Make sure it is a microphone problem and not a radio problem. We got 1 more minute to go and that thing will kick on by itself. While we're waiting for that, did you happen to notice the meters? They're a little backwards. The numbers start high and work down, and both of them say VU. The meters fit in there nice, but the backgrounds need to be changed on them. I'm not sure yet if those work or not. If they work, I'll probably just print out some new backgrounds for them. See if I can get my hands on the original, what came with this. The radio is pretty loaded. Let me lower you down, Selma, and get you closer in. Hey, the timer works. Unfortunately, we were moving the camera around when it happened, but it actually turns itself on. And then you can... Oh, wait a minute. We got to put that to manual, and then we can shut it off. But if you put the automatic on, and you set the timer, it can automatically turn the radio on for you. I suppose you could use it as an alarm clock. Wake up to the sound of the CB radio. I love radio, but I don't know if I want to wake up to it. We have the clock settings. I have it currently set at the correct time, so I'm not going to mess with it, but it does all work well. As you can see, I was able to set the time. And on the radio, we have all the common stuff. We have the volume, squelch, RF gain, mic gain, tone control, which is always nice to have. Delta tune, which put it in the middle and leave it there. We have the dimmer control. Hey, that does work. Look at that. It actually works pretty smooth, too, for an old radio. That's not bad. And we have the SWR function, even though our VU meters don't show SWR. Let's see. We have a transmit indicator, a receive indicator, channel 9, oh, and an antenna warning indicator. Let's see what it says about my antenna. This is currently hooked up to a tram 3-foot no ground base station antenna set up in my attic. And I guess it's safe. We don't have an antenna warning indicator going off. I already knew it was safe anyway. Do we have any activity? It's on channel 6. The radios went quiet. Even my other one on the side. That one's on 38 lower, and it's quiet right now, too. Nope. Somebody in Southern Cal. Alright, let's try this thing out. What I'm going to do is, this is a tough old radio. So we're going to turn the RF gain all the way down. And I don't have my glasses on, and I can't see that far away. I just want to make sure that was the RF gain. And we'll go on channel 6, because we won't bother anybody on 6. Let's see, can we get both radios in shot? Oh, sure. All right, I'm going to key up the mic and give a whistle into it. Let's turn that volume up a little bit. Yeah, just like the guy told me, no modulation coming out of it. But if you notice the signal meter on the realistic on the right, it is transmitting. Oh, and look at that. The signal meter works. Actually, does it go drop right down when we shut it off? Yeah, it does. Well, the numbers on that meter are a little goofy, but the noise level is pretty low, considering the antenna that I have this connected to. That antenna inside my attic is very noisy. Most radios, it'll show 5 to 7 S units of noise. All right, let me take this apart and see what we have for an element in there. It just has 2 little Phillips head screws, one on each side. So I'm going to open that up and see what's in there. If it's a nice, quick, easy one. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's make sure it's not a problem with the radio. So let me disconnect this microphone. Yeah. It's a very smooth surface on that ring. My fingers just keep slipping around it. There's not much for knurling on that. Let me grab another 5-pin mic. Alright, I have this microphone. This is wired to work with like a Washington, a Cobra 2000, Uniden Grant. There's the notch. Let's see if it brings it to life. Well, we got receive. I was actually just picking up a little bit of DX on that tiny little tram antenna. Alright, with any luck, we should get a squeal out of the other radio now. Well, how about that? It is the microphone. This mic works on it. That's pretty cool, too. It's wired the same as like a Washington. Ah, we can see both meters work, too. Look at that. The modulation meter works, too. That sounds pretty good, too. I'm going to have to do some testing on a radio further away and see what this thing sounds like on the air. That did sound pretty good, didn't it? How loud can we go before it squeals? How about that loud? That microphone picks up pretty well, too. I was just holding it about a foot away from my face, and it was picking me up. Just a cheapie. The only thing it says on it anywhere is Japan. I think this went with a Kraco, maybe? It's a cool little mic, though. But we're not going to use that on this radio. Ah, look at that. It's new enough that the receive stops working without the microphone. Let me toss that other one. Now we are going to take this mic apart and find out why we have no modulation. Should we start in the base? Make sure everything is hooked up? Should we start in the connector? Make sure everything's hooked up? Or should we just attack the element? I'm going to just attack the element, because I'm betting that's what the problem is. Focus camera. There we go. The mic's a little bit dirty, isn't it? Alright, let me take this apart and we'll see what's inside of it. So I got the mic all apart, and I find this kind of element inside of there. And well, would you look at this? Wait a minute. Look at that. I have a replacement. All right, I'm going to get this soldered in, and then we'll try this radio again. All right, the new element is in. It's all soldered in. I have it slid back into that housing, and that foam ring, though the impressions are going to be different now, it just sits against the little tabs that are inside of the mic there. And then when you push this in, let me get that wire inside of there. We don't want to pinch that wire. I also did the orientation of where the wire is. You can't really see that, can you? Where the wire comes out of the element. You get that to focus on there? I spun it so that it'll be in between the two tabs inside of there. That way we don't pinch any wires. Alright, I'm going to put the little screws back in there and then we'll try it out. Alright, I got it all back together. Let's try this thing out. Now that I've done it once, I remember that the notch goes up on this. I'm not even going to bother screwing that on yet because it's not an easy one to do. It's recessed and that ring is very slippery. Let's turn our power on. And look at the other radio. That's you can get a reference to where the volume's set at. Alright, you ready? Let's give it a try. Oh no, still no modulation. Alright, I guess there's an issue either in the switch, the connector. Hopefully that element I put in is good. Alright, let me open up the base and see what we see in there. Alright, well remember when I was putting the head back together and I said I spun it so the wires wouldn't get pinched? Well, I guess somebody else didn't have that same kind of thinking. When I opened this up, that wire that heads up to the element was pinched between the mounting hole and the part of the base. So I'm going to clean that, open that up, see if that wire is damaged. And if it is, I'm going to fix it. Well, after inspecting that wire, I realized that wasn't the issue. So I decided to take the plug apart. And wouldn't you know, as I was... well, let me start at the beginning. I already knew that a microphone from a Washington would work on this radio. So what I did was I brought up the wiring diagram for a unit end Cobra 5-pin mic. And I discovered that the neutral, the white wire right here, that switches it from receive to transmit, was hooked up in the audio spot. And the audio one was hooked up where the white wire should have been. So I switched the yellow and the white wire on that plug. Now, let's see if this does anything. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but... well, we still have receive. Let me put this together somewhat. Try not to pinch that wire like somebody else did. Just enough so that I can talk into this. Let's see, we still have that other radio going. It should blast at us. And watch the modulation meter. Shut off that other radio. We don't need it anymore. It's fixed. Alright, let me put this mic connector back together and the base of the microphone back together. And then we'll do an on-air test and see what this thing sounds like from a little ways away. Okay, so down in my garage, I have my unit end Washington set up down there with no antenna on it. It's about 100 feet away from the tiny antenna that this radio is connected to. We're going to transmit on that cute, adorable little microphone, which I didn't show you this either. The transmit and lock buttons. Now you press that one to just transmit, or you press that one and it holds it, it locks it. Press it again and it releases it. It's a really cool, it's not an amplified, it's just a regular dynamic microphone. But really cool little mic. It's light too. I almost dropped it. There's nothing to it. Alright, so we're going to transmit down to that Washington and see what this thing sounds like on the air. This is a SBE Land Command. Just doing an audio test. Just checking to see how this thing sounds on the air. We're broadcasting down to another station that's set up with a camera recording just to hear this radio on the air. Alright, this is the SBE Land Command 40 channel base station. I doubt very much that anybody heard that. I consider that little antenna to be a dummy load. Alright, let's go listen to the recording and see how that came out.
This is a SBE Land Command, just doing an audio test, just checking to see how this thing sounds on the air. We're broadcasting down to another station that's set up with a camera recording, just to hear this radio on the air. Alright, this is the SBE Land Command 40 channel base station.
Well, how about that? Another old timer back to life. I have no idea how those two wires got switched inside of that mic connector. Maybe it was wired up. Somebody was using it on a different radio. I'm not even sure what pointed me in that direction to look for it, but I'm glad I found it and figured it out. It's another cool old radio that's in good working order. That one I'm going to put up on the shelf, and I'm going to use the clock on it. Because in this room, I seem to have problems with clocks. The batteries die, and I forget to do daylight savings, but this one will catch my eye, and maybe this one I'll actually keep track of it and keep it on time. Alright guys, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.